Am I going to get billed for this therapy session?
100%.
Okay.
The financial success wasn't there. Would you still be as driven to do it?
Farruko, es Enrique Santos. Soy yo.
Para hacer una entrevista con este hijo de madre.
Oye, papi, es Enrique Santos.
Enrique, el pana mío, el legendario.
Papi, I'm really busy right now. I can't talk, okay? I'm busy, bro. I'm busy.
Why become a police officer?
Service is not a job. We mistake that control is safety. People, I want to be famous. I want to be rich.
Did it trigger any insecurities?
Sure. A lot of people don't talk about these things.
But I know a bunch of people, a bunch of artists, a bunch of managers that work as hard as I do don't have what I have. Which tells me that
people will forget words, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
How do you deal with success?
Knowing that success is the paycheck. I don't do this for the money. I do it because those same words that you told somebody are the same exact words you need to hear. Well, you can be Latino and live simultaneously in two worlds and still have success in it.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of You Versus You. If these conversations are inspiring you and are bringing value to your life, please make sure to subscribe, join the community, and don't forget to share with anyone who you think needs to hear this. Thank you for supporting the show. Now let's get back to our episode.
All right, here we are. Always good to sit down and have some honest conversations. I feel privileged that we've been able to build a friendship where we always talk about these things every time we meet up. But how do you deal with success and preventing the pressure of getting to you and essentially causing your personal life to be affected, right?
Well, knowing that success is the paycheck. Mm-hmm. I don't do this for the money. I do it because I enjoy it. I feel that I'm doing it for the right reason. As long as you're doing it for the right reason, everything falls in place and it feels natural. It feels organic. It doesn't feel forced.
What is the right thing?
I mean, always following your passion, to be able to do what we do, to be creators, to be in entertainment, but then recognize that through entertainment, you're able to affect positive change. You're able to, touch so many people's lives, and not only touch people, but hopefully, touch people and engage people, but wake something up in them that also woke up in you and in me to be able to create more and to turn that into something positive with the hopes that people will not only engage with you and connect with you, but also do something positive with that as well. Does that make sense?
Do you feel like if you could do what you do and the financial success wasn't there, would you still be as driven to do it?
It would probably be more difficult to do it because you do need money to be, not that you need money to be creative, but you do need money to invest, to be able to have the time. Yeah. I would say to invest not in material things, but it goes way beyond, cameras and microphones and having the gear and the technology to do it. Because nowadays anybody, and you can, it's a lot more accessible than before. Anyone can do make a home podcast studio and buy microphones, and there's so much technology to edit, and it's much more accessible. The investment is the time to be able to create that space where you're able to regenerate energy and keep your creative juices going without getting burnt out.
What do you think motivates you to specifically do what you do, right? Because it's, as I'm going and stepping in your seat now doing this, it's really interesting because I'm so used to getting things done, but not necessarily putting myself in a place where I have to be the talent, right? And one of the things we talked about in LA when we hung out last time was how to break the box that we created ourselves. Do you feel like your own success in radio communications has put a box around the things that you could do because people expect you to do one thing, right? Like for me, it's like people expect me to be the executive, the manager. So when all of a sudden I'm creatively leading a presentation or producing music, people feel like, oh, he's not really the producer. He's taking percentages, or he's doing this because he's a manager, and they try to put you in the box, Right. And people expect that Enrique Santos to be
for sure
a radio presenter.
For sure. People box me in. But before I get into the boxes, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your friendship. It's something that I treasure deeply. And congratulations on what you're doing, and you breaking out of your own box.
Listen, this is, and we'll talk about this as well, as like, this is me stretching my vessel to receive a new age in my life, right?
What made you want to do it? What?
I think for me, it really came down to feeling in a box, right? Like I posted a video yesterday on Instagram that, I was really surprised because the amount of comments I got, but it was me watching a video of myself from 14 years ago when I was like a nobody, like legit a nobody in the business.
I saw you post it.
And
like
I was
10 years later.
Yeah, I was like, yo, I made it. I'm CEO Lex and I'm going to make you famous. Bro, I couldn't even make myself famous, let alone somebody else. But that kid understood the power of his creativity, understood the power of being the talent, right? Like he wasn't afraid to get in the video and speak in that way because he like really based it on that. But somewhere along the way, the fear kicked in. And I created the box of, oh, no, I'm the manager. Because if I'm the manager and you fail, there's a separation between you failing and me failing, right?
But you see that kid that you posted, that Lex that I saw that you posted on your Instagram that was celebrating. He was acknowledging his moment, what it took for him to get to that point at that moment. He was appreciative of that moment, and he was celebrating that moment. And I think that's something that we need to do more often. It's just as humans, understand where we're at, not where we want to be, right? How many people don't have the new car and, okay, but that car's not new enough. I want the new one that's coming out next month. I got the new watch and this watch is cool and it's beautiful, but I don't want this watch. I want the new one that's coming out next year. And that's what keeps us going, keeps us challenged. We all need challenges as humans, and it's okay to celebrate their moments, keeping your boots on the ground and keeping humble about it. But there's nothing wrong with celebrating everything you had to sacrifice to get where you're at in life. So that's what I saw in that video you posted.
Yeah.
Going back to the boxes, absolutely. I feel boxed in all the time, and every day I try to find ways. I've never liked labels. I always think that labels do us more harm than good as humans. And that goes to, and we need labels to kind of understand psychology and in humans. And, you have genres of music and they get put into different columns and boxes. Again, we get boxed in. If you're a title or CEO of a company, people expect you to wear a suit and tie. You can't just wear like shorts or dress down like the rest of your employees. I don't agree with that. Again, but you get boxed into that. So I get boxed into I have certain days of the week or certain hours of the day where it's Enrique, the morning radio broadcast guy, the host of the morning show. And then it's Enrique, the English, he's hosting his English show. So now, it's a different Enrique, and the English is different than the Spanish. Some people have a hard time making the difference between all that. And then it's Enrique, the executive. And then it's Enrique, if I'm in my role as a police officer, it's a little more serious. So people don't expect cops to have a sense of humor or to be human. And that's, it's not my job necessarily to break that box in other people's view, but it's definitely my responsibility to not box myself in or not allow any of those titles or that box to limit my creativity or who I am. And I learned a long time ago, if I have something to say it. If I feel something, express it. And opportunities, how many times don't we see people that have passed as we get older, this happens more frequently, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, shit, I wish I could have told him or her that, So those are moments like now, if I, celebrate, hey, good job.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with celebrating other people's their glories and their triumphs.
It's interesting because it speaks to the human condition, right? The human condition is we need to always feel like we have more, because more defines what box we get put in, right? It's a different box if you're the CEO of a company,
right,
than if you're the person at the front welcoming people, right? But these boxes are really created by the fact that we have been programmed to think that we need to achieve success to feel okay. We need to fit into the status quo of being married or, you know, for women, they get a lot of pressure. It's like, if you don't have kids at a certain age or,
Right.
you know, whatever it is, it's like
Right.
all these boxes that we need to fit in. It's a narrative we've been fed that honestly, for me, you know, I followed it. I ate the cereal. I said, oh, great. Yes. Like, in order to have self-worth at that level, I have to have the achievements and the awards and all these things. And what I found in our business specifically is there's a lot of people that get to a place of success and realize that it didn't fill the void. And then life stops having meaning, right? And we've seen so many of our peers, unfortunately, you know, take their own lives or go through these situations because of that necessity to fill that hole. And for me, that's really what You Versus You is about. It's like understanding that we've been programmed with a story. We've believed the story. We speak to ourselves about that story every single day, right? Like, to your point, you get a watch and you're like, wow, this watch is incredible. But then I see yours and it's like, damn, I wish I had that, right? And then that creates the void again. And we've, in my opinion, we've masked that with, oh, but that's motivation. That's challenging. That's human nature to want more things. And while, yes, it will motivate you. Yes, it'll put goals, and it's good to have goals in your dreams. The core of who you are needs to still get to a place where you're okay no matter what.
For sure. When did Lex break that rhythm and realize that?
When I got to everything I wanted and felt like something was missing. There was a hole in my life that needed filling, and none of the things that I had achieved were doing that. Even though I am super giving, I am motivated to people, I truly do it. Like my office says, you know, the purpose is to change lives. I just felt a void. And that void caused me to go to search for something, right? And is when I started to understand that the whole concept is the universe is in divine order, and no matter what, you're okay. So like, you don't need to be successful to be okay. We don't need to work harder to be okay. Like, the idea that we have to suffer in order to live a better life is a state of mind, because it's just how you process everything. Like, I also posted about this in New Year's, where I say to people, well, if I drink this water and I don't like it, and you drink the water and you like it, the water never changed. It's just the filter that it went through. And what it shows you is that the work in order to feel content in life is to love and accept whatever you are going through, because it is exactly what your life is intended to go through. You came here to learn, and that moment of sitting down and appreciating the fire that you're sitting in and changing your perspective could change your whole life experience. I was seeing this clip on TikTok, Tony Robbins saying, you know, you want to change your life, change the way you think about your life. And then I had seen that clip before, and it didn't really make sense before. And all of a sudden it clicked, and it's like, yes, 100% just perspective. So just like there's people that have mastered going into an ice tub and sitting on the ice tub 10 seconds. And for them, this is a daily routine. For me, it's torture, but it's just perspective. The ice never changed.
Right.
And you can master the art of sitting in ice and being okay. You can master the art of walking on fire and not burning you. You can master the art of jumping off skydiving and not feel the fear. Like, everything is just an illusion based on how you perceive life. And the boxes that we've been put, that's why I brought it up, because we had this conversation. It's so interesting because I found myself lying to myself. I found myself...
Why lying to yourself that you were happy? Lying to yourself that
that like this boxes that we put on us. We said, like, so many times we say, no, I don't let myself be put in a box, right? I don't let myself be put in a box. I am creative first. Like I always said, paint to my staff, paint the canvas and we'll frame it later. And that's like a saying I say.
I like that.
And then I found myself, like, when the opportunity came to be creative, saying to myself, no, but you're the manager. Subconsciously.
So you would tap the brakes on yourself.
Yeah, you subconsciously put that, right? Or so many times it's like, you know, we were talking about this, for example, in doing a show like this is, I'm going to have to put the extra hours, and what are people going to say? And then maybe I lose my job. Like, some of our guests here were scared to have some of these conversations because they're like, oh man, like, What happens to my perception if I do that? So we think and we say to ourselves, no, we have these, we don't have any boxes. Yet subconsciously we put the same boxes to ourselves. And we also, especially when we're in a position of success, I find myself giving a lot of people a lot of advice that you don't give yourself. Because we're very easy to talk.
Yeah.
And we don't realize we talk to ourselves completely negatively. Ricky and I were talking about this yesterday because we're like, how much do you talk to someone and you're like, man, listen, keep going, bro. You have to, don't even stress it. Like life got you. And then when it's happening to you, you're like, oh, I'm going to lose my rent tomorrow. Yeah. Like what's going to happen?
And you realize that those same words that you told somebody are the same exact words you need to hear.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens as humans. We need that reinforcement. We need that positive reinforcement. Sometimes we need that tap on the shoulder, that pick me up, someone to say, hey, you know, we need to be celebrated too as humans. We don't realize that, but you know, and in entertainment, not too many people are, offer that advice, or if they're offering that advice, sometimes it's not always coming from the right place.
Did it trigger any insecurities?
Sure. My weight, what I look like, did I fit the mold of, being on stage and interviewing, celebrities? Absolutely.
How do you feel like you tackled that? Like, because I find it really interesting when the insecurity kicks in and your body goes into contraction, right? Like the managing of that in order to not psych yourself out, because it's always easier to fall into the insecurity or the fear than it is to like push it away. So when you noticed it and you were faced with that reality, was there anything that subconsciously you did right away or consciously did to like try to push yourself out of it, or you just kind of really had to deal with it over time?
Deal with it with time, a little bit of experience going through, you learn to manage your nerves a little, a lot more, your emotions, obviously, as we get older and as we mature. I learned for me, being under pressure. I learned with time also that sometimes I feel like I'm totally in control of an interview, or that, I'm involved in a conversation where I think it's absolutely fantastic and, oh man, this is going to be amazing. And then I go back and watch it or listen to it, which I don't like going back and listening or watching myself on videos or even hearing my voice. It's the weirdest thing. But when I do, because I just critique myself so much, but sometimes when I feel I'm totally in control and my interviews are going fantastic, I'll watch it or hear it and I'm like, oh, that was horrible. And then sometimes when I'm nervous, when I'm less in control, I think I bombed, I'll watch or hear that interview and I'm like, wow, that was amazing. That was good stuff. So it's kind of weird, but I've found that in this industry, and specifically in radio, or when especially you're doing live media these days, you perform tight, you prepare tight, perform loose. So always know where you want to take the conversation, always, knowing what you want to get out of it, and just letting things flow.
It's interesting that you touch on like the ones that you think you bomb are the ones that are really good. Because, one of the other points that I've discovered was the idea of running away from the fear, it's kind of what we've been taught, like always look for the light at the end of the tunnel, or, be afraid. And similar to you experiencing that, I found in my life that the harder the situation or the most uncomfortable it makes me, if I lean into that, the bigger the blessing is. Because I've learned that that's where the gold is. Like that's the lesson, right? Mm-hmm. That's the sitting in the fire instead of running away from the fire moment.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you've related to your own experience, because sometimes, again, I feel the exact same thing. The things that make me super nervous, and then the times that I feel comfortable is where I've made the mistakes. Like the times that I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm 100%. I know how to make this deal. And I go do it and I land it. And then I'm like, oh my God, I could have pushed for an extra $1 million. Or I could have, because I was just so comfortable in the thing, that the fear factor that allows you to like kind of zoom out and look at yourself almost as the watcher, as I call it, is not there, because you're running things in programming.
For sure.
So for me, it's been really interesting over the past 2 years to learn that the harder the situation, the more that I lean in, the more that I face that fear or face that, and then I find the gold in that.
Well, we're creatures of habits, right?
Yeah.
So if you think, how many times when I remember when I first lived by myself, I'm a homeboy. I love being home. I love watching movies, relaxing movie days. And on weekends, I live a very, very noisy life in that there's always conversations and there's always phones and there's conferences and emails and things that need to be recorded and on video and on audio. And so there's a lot of noise. So when I'm able to disconnect and keep things quiet, sometimes I purposely create that oasis where I need that airplane mode. I need, I want to be in full silence because I want to talk to myself. I want to hear myself. I need to have that conversation with myself. How am I feeling? All the conversations that we have as humans internally, as long as we're not answering ourselves. If you're answering yourself back, especially out loud, then you have a problem. That's what they have psychiatrists for, which a lot of us could benefit from talking. That's another thing, mental health that we don't talk about, especially with first responders, is something that's near and dear to my heart that a lot of people don't talk about these things because culturally it wasn't a thing. It's also generational, right? Because my parents and grandparents never really, and by no fault of theirs, they've done the best they can with the information they have, the same way parents of this generation do. But coming up, if it's a kid that had a problem or issues, they would say, "Oh, ese muchacho está loco." That kid's crazy, not realizing the damage you're actually doing. Or now you look back, it's calling somebody crazy. That person may not be crazy. That person may be depressed. That person may be just in need of a chat.
Do you go to therapy?
I've gone. Mm-hmm. And it's very beneficial. Reluctantly at first.
Yeah. Do you feel like you lied to your therapist?
No. Honestly, no. Do you lie to yours?
Well, you know what I found? I found that not necessarily that I lie, but I tell my own story, right? So, therapists, for the most part, you're sitting there talking, right? Because they ask you 2 questions and get you going. It's like an interview. But I found that I respond to a lot of the things that the person asks originally from a place of like ego. I want her to prove me right? So I've gone through a lot of couple therapy and individual therapy, and I'm always like, but this is what's going on, and I need to know this, and then this person did this, and I don't know how to react to this, and this. And then it's like, I started to understand that, okay, what else can I do here? Man, something, every time I leave out of therapy, I feel really right, but I sometimes also feel like I needed to confront myself.
Right.
So I went and I tried MDMA therapy.
What's that?
So it's like ecstasy, but in therapy form.
Like ayahuasca?
No, very different than ayahuasca. And we'll talk about ayahuasca because I've also done that. Have you done ayahuasca?
I have not.
Okay, so we're going to talk about ayahuasca. MDMA therapy, I didn't even know it existed, right? But essentially, you take the purest form of MDMA.
Isn't that what Ultra is when you go to Ultra?
Yeah, that's exactly that. You might be, you're doing therapy. I don't know what kind of therapy you're going through.
Therapy.
See, that's what I'm trying to tell you. See, you're going to Ultra doing all kind of crazy things. But you mix it in apple juice and you essentially drink it over the time of your session, which could be hours, like 4 or 5 hours, right?
It's like microdosing.
Yeah, it's like microdosing, right? So you don't get all the effects that you get from if you take it, I don't know, at a club or an Ultra.
It's like a healthy microdosing because it's apple juice.
Yeah, listen,
apple sauce,
you got to watch your weight while you're doing therapy. But the funniest part of it all is that what I found in that therapy, and it's like really laughable. I wish I could have filmed myself in the times that I do it. Is that the first hour, the medicine doesn't hit you yet. So you're talking from that place of ego. Like, I think that I see this correctly and I don't know why I'm afraid and blah, 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 but I feel like I could do so much more in the world and I don't feel like I'm enough. And you start going into whatever the therapy.
And then what happens when it kicks
hits you?
What?
And you realize you're full of shit. You're full of shit. Like
you can call it on your own, like right there. Like
you know what it
is
that it's called the heart medicine. It was originally, if I'm not mistaken, developed to deal with PTSD from soldiers during the Vietnam War. And so the open heartness that allows you, that's why people love to take it at Ultra and stuff, because all of a sudden everybody happy.
No
You know
ego.
what I mean? No ego, nothing. You're just saying hi to everybody.
Peace and
everybody
love.
getting a hi and kiss. So all of a sudden, your heart opens up and your like subconscious opens up, and you can realize the simple fact of like, I was in one of the therapy sessions and I was saying all these things, and the spiritual leader that was leading me through it said, have you ever just stopped and realized you're actually okay? That nothing that is going on in your life changes that you're okay. You know, I've done it in couple therapy, and you're like, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden the medicine hits and you're like, wow, I'm just judging you. I want you to believe in my law. And that's the problem. The problem is our perspective makes a law, right? Our perspective says, that's it. When someone walks into my house, I want them to take off their shoes and they need to say hi, because that's how my mother taught me. And
You
so
want
when
to take them off now?
Yeah, you might as well. But when someone takes them out, when someone doesn't, or someone doesn't say hi right
Yeah.
away, we're like, oh, that person's a piece of crap. That person is this and the person is that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because we set our perspective as law, not understanding that one is just our perspective, right? It's our filter drinking the water. Two, that person's also suffering. We're all just humans suffering.
This is amazing. So psychedelic therapy with apple juice. Apple juice.
Yeah, or I mean, you
saved
could
your
put it-
marriage.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what? It transformed my life. It really did. I would have never thought, but it just gave me the understanding, mind you, through guidance and a lot of work,
Mm-hmm.
that I was looking at life from my perspective, making it law, which is what happens to us. We've been taught, like your parents, like we were talking about parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were taught to do this way. They have no other way. And the reality, your mind is like the top computer in the world. And there's things in your mind that you could do by yourself. Like in your computer, you might know how to send an email or open
Right.
Excel, right? That's like when you get to listen to a podcast, read a book. That's you doing that. Then there's times where you're like, man, I don't know how to like split my screen. So I got to call tech support at the office. So I call, Joe, come here and help me out with this.
Right.
That's like what we're doing right now. It's community, right?
Sure.
And then there's times that you need a software engineer. There's times you need somebody that works at Google to come mess your shit up in order to make the computer work correctly.
Right.
Well, to me, what I realized is like, that's what this alternative medicine has done for me.
Wow.
Is the Google software engineer that says, hey, your mind has the complete power to change your whole entire life. It's not religion. It's not, self-help books. It's literally your mind. You are, and if somebody's religious, you're the truest reflection of everything you could be, just how you look at the world.
Right.
So if you could change how you look at the world, you could change your life. And that's really the work of like Tony Robbins and these guys that are really transformative, is that they have been able to master how to walk you through changing your mentality. So that all of a sudden you feel like miracles are happening in your life is because your output of life is different and your intake of life is different.
Right.
So that was MDMA. Then I was like, okay, this is transformative. Let me go deeper. And I had been scared of doing ayahuasca because when people talk about ayahuasca, they talk about like Peru,
Right.
or like
In
you're
the
going in the
jungle,
jungle, and I'm
barefoot,
like,
half naked.
You see all that to me screams heck to the
Snakes.
no, heck to the no.
Shamans coming
None
out,
of
hitting
that.
you with leaves.
None of that. I'm doing none of that.
Who convinced you?
Honestly, a few of my close friends and clients really convinced me. Will being one of them, but really just convinced me to say, hey, there's another way. And honestly, my spiritual leader, who I did the first MDMA therapy with, he was like, you should try it. It will help you look into other things.
How was that different than the other therapy with the MDA? NDMA rather.
Opens you up to listening to the reality of this place, right? With guided help, you can understand the number one change of your life, which is everything's perspective. That allows you to see that. Ayahuasca puts you in a dream stage and it makes you deal with your shit. And the way I've described it to people is like, it will give you answers by showing you the reality of what it is. And for some people that have traumas and things, it will make you sit in that trauma and make you evolve into it. Because
is it a voice, or are you like replaying images
it's all
of
your
your
mind.
past?
Like, unlike, some people do other things and you start seeing fairy tales and all. This is, at least in my experience, it was completely, I was in control. So it's kind of like when you take a drink and you're not drunk, you're tipsy, so you feel something, but for the most part,
What does it taste like a bad mojito? Some people have described it as literally tasting the jungle.
Yeah, it tastes like you just ate some dirt and plants.
Okay.
100%. But here's the thing. All it does is that it allows you, it puts you in this wave where your brain just starts opening up, and whatever you're thinking of is just going to give you things in that thought process. So if you, at least for me, again, my experience was I wrote some things down that I wanted to work on, and it made me sit on those things, even the painful ones, and gave me clarity on things that I wasn't addressing. And so for me, it's been incredible. So far, the people that I've shared the experience with and have done it as well, I feel like it's been incredible. It's not for everyone. I think if you're going in there way too afraid, or you don't feel like you're at that place correctly, it could, you're going to approach the medicine with fear. But for the most part, I would say it is incredibly transformative. It is the software engineer coming in your mind and doing it.
It's not like a rewire.
No,
It's
it
just
is
kinda
whatever
like-
you want it to be.
How so?
Because it just focuses on the things you wanted to focus on, right?
Like you said, you went in there with certain things you wanted to tackle or address written down.
Yeah, like I'll give you a perfect example, right? I was feeling some trauma, some pain, some hurt from how a past relationship had ended, right? And in typical human form, I looked at that situation from my POV and said, oh no, but it's that this person, like, they're being like this and they're doing this and this is why the situation didn't happen. And yeah, I did this bad, but like, shoot, look at all the good stuff that I've done. And then the medicine puts you in that. And bro, it was like, for me, one of the most emotional parts of the journey, because it started to show me the reality of my own bullshit. And it started to show me like, okay, you want to let that go. Here's how you heal. And I think one of the biggest things that it really brought to light is the digging deep into the hard moments of your life. And like, sometimes we're afraid to go say sorry and have the hard conversations.
But here's where I'm intrigued by this.
Yeah.
Where is the here's how you heal? Is it yourself telling you this is what you're going to do?
Yeah.
Or is it just a voice that...
You literally, is your mind running and your thoughts speaking to you. That's how I described it. It's like, I saw the things and your mind is going through the transition, just like Will was sharing something with us about I Am Legend, right? When he filmed I Am Legend, and he said, it was one of the most interesting acting experiences because he has to act his part. And because he's alone,
Right.
he has to embrace the energy or the emotion of whatever he was talking to that person, or when he was talking to, for example, the mannequin in the store. He's like, can you have her say hi to me or love, whatever was that part. It's exactly the same thing. It's like, you notice your brain whenever you see something, it's like, oh, I should go get something to eat. And then you're like, nah, but then I'm going to feel like crap after. Well, your brain does the same thing when you're in ayahuasca. It's like,
okay.
man, like she's wrong. Wait. No. Like, have you thought about it this way? Have you thought that maybe you just were never honest? And that's what created all that. So to me, just, again, it's software engineering your own mind.
Fascinating.
So if you haven't tried it, I encourage you to try it.
I'm too chicken shit for that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
you
like being in control. I don't like anything that where I don't feel I can back myself out of.
Really interesting. You said control. Do you feel like you truly have control?
No, we really don't have. We have very little control. We have a lot less control than what we would like to think or admit in everything, in outcomes, in lives, and relationships, and in any situation we walk into.
So then the story that you're in control is just a story you're telling yourself. Because your subconscious automatically went to, no, we don't have control.
Right. Well, no, I think that's just a defense mechanism. Just me. I'm a very, but yeah, but to your point, because
It's just a narrative.
but I call myself out on my own bullshit, and I didn't have to do ayahuasca.
It's really interesting, that concept though, because even the idea of feeling like you need to be in control and then understanding that you're not totally in control. But
Yeah.
we approach everything in our lives like that. And so the question comes like, what if by trying to be in control, while knowing that you're not in control, you're stopping some sort of bigger blessing in
This
your life?
is true. And I'll go back to what I had a little lapse a little while ago, and I have forgotten about going, being single or having time and creating those oases. And to your point about feeling uncomfortable, and how many times in our lives don't we do things that take us out of our comfort zone? And he had mentioned about that's where the growth is. How many people would we have not met if we don't get out of bed that day? How many relationships would we not have nourished had we not went out to a club and bumped into somebody or bought somebody a drink, or someone bought you that drink? But everything's a risk in life, right? So it's I think with me, it's not that I'm not a risk taker. I like risk, but I think it comes from my law enforcement background of mistrust and not in general mistrust, but in reading people, analyzing people, situations. So I think that's where you always want to, you'll see cops when you walk into a restaurant. Maybe you haven't realized it, but it's part of the psyche of law enforcement officers. You'll never see a cop, for example, in uniform, sit with his back towards the door. He's going to sit always facing the door. He or she is always looking for, if something were to go bad, an escape route. That's the kind of thing. So I think that's where it's just that protective barrier. I think that I it's that guard that I always have up, but it comes from my background.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to the filter, right?
True.
It goes back to the filter, which is, again, that's the you versus you battle, right? It's like we find some sort of security in our teachings.
Am I going to get billed for this therapy session?
100%. But I have a question for you now that we talked about you being a cop and you've mentioned it a few times. Why? Why become a police officer?
Well, service is not a job. It's a calling. And I learned very on as a kid that I enjoy helping people, and I enjoy community. I was a police explorer through high school, and then I became a dispatcher, and then I went to the police academy, and the the joys of, number one, law enforcement officers and first responders see human beings at their worst, unfortunately. Death, and they've been victims of crime. So to be able to step in and help somebody and transform that negative moment and that negative contact into something positive, when you find the guy that carjacked some woman, an innocent family down the street, when you chase down and you're able to grab somebody who stole some old lady's purse, because you see your parents reflected in these people, and you see your grandparents, and the human nature of it. It's just so fascinating. And cops per se, generally speaking, are a form of psychiatrists. The good ones that are doing it for the right reasons are there to help people through these very difficult situations. So that's something that's always fascinated me. When I parked my police car and traded it for a microphone, it was a blessing. I was in my mid-20s. I saw some funny, now that you ask me, I'm reflecting back, and I specifically remember when they offered me to do full-time radio, to leave police work totally, to do radio full-time and host a morning show. I remember that there was some people that worked the midnight shift. I was working the afternoon shift, and I remember parking my police car, and the midnight shift would come in. And a lot of those men were about my age now. 2 or 3 of them had heart attacks. They were just miserable, upset. And I remember saying to myself, I don't want to be that guy. But then now in my role, I feel like I do a disservice to that profession if I'm not looking back and helping those men and women that are doing that job that right now, in my opinion, pays very little. Not everyone respects. Not everybody understands. it's easy to criticize, especially in the digital era when when you see a 15 or 20-second clip and people want to Monday night quarterback that. They don't know what that is. I've been in that situation. I've been shot at. I've had to shoot to defend myself, and then been dragged through the mud and dragged through the dirt, and know the pressure of possibly being indicted and possibly having people think that cops get up every day and go out and want to beat people up or want to kill people. No one wants to make that decision that's going to be a burden for the rest of your life, knowing that you took someone's life. So in my position, that I've been blessed to do better for myself and follow another career path, I take it with a great sense of responsibility if I'm able to, since I've walked that beat and I've been in that situation, I can speak the truth. I know what it feels to be in that situation. So why not use my platforms to prop these good men and women up that are doing God's work, if you ask me, on our streets to keep peace and law and order. And the respect is twofold, because I respect that profession. I do it as volunteer basis now as a reserve Miami police officer. They do it in a full-time position. But when I wear the uniform, they say, Enrique is one of us. It's a sense of, hey, acknowledgement and respect.
One of the hardest parts of that job, like you said, is the being misunderstood, right? And the potential that being misunderstood can lead to tragic things in your life, like going to jail or being convicted or, and I would say for me, that's like you, I've always admired cops. I've admired soldiers. I come from a military family, and I always would say that, like, even now, even the content that I consume is very much driven by law enforcement and that idea. Like, I love the idea of...
That's just because you're working with Will Smith now, and you're a fan of all the Bad Boys movies. No,
Bad Boys. I actually loved Mike Lowry. If I would have been a cop, definitely be a Mike Lowry. I mean, you got to shoot. You drive a Porsche. You're rich.
There you go.
And you get to shoot guns. That's incredible.
But wait, Mike Lowry had hair.
Yeah. Damn, bro. You gotta really do me like that?
I had to go there.
It's okay. Us bald guys do it better. You know what I mean?
Oh, really?
Because the wind would be flowing through,
There you go. Is it true that you went bald because you were doing a bunch of U-turns under the sheets?
Ooh.
Never heard that joke.
No, I haven't heard that one. That's a funny one. But and even training, I do quite a bit of tactical training.
I've seen that on your social media as well.
And for me, it's just like the need to have that high level of adrenaline to calm my mind down. And so I've actually become really, really good at it because the fear and everything else is gone. But what I was getting to is that one of my biggest fears has always been potentially being in a situation where you get caught between a circumstance where it's really perception, right? Like and then you can face life in prison or whatever it is, right? Like so many people that get accused wrongfully, or you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, or, something happened and somebody passed away whatever it is, when you're like defending yourself. Mm-hmm. That, to me, that level, even I would say, like, I don't ever really get angry. I get frustrated. Like frustration. Like, so I can't imagine the frustration I would feel if I know I'm innocent and I'm stuck in a situation where I have no control. It's actually even my fear about marriage always came from not the actual marriage, the divorce part, because you now have a court that gets to choose and decide how you look at your own personal life. And that freaked me out, Even when I do contracts, that's always the thing. It's like I double, triple check just because I know that the moment it leaves your hand and it goes into a court, it's up in, it's in God's hands. And I say this to say, what are you afraid of? What makes Enrique afraid? What do you fear?
I fear death, not mine, but death and separation, loneliness of the people that I love most. I just recently lost my grandfather on my father's side. He was the last one. So my 4 grandparents, my mom's father went first, and then a couple of years, very quickly, then her father, and then my dad's mom, and now my dad's dad. He lived to 95. We celebrated his 95th birthday, and the following week, he checked out. So the fear of not having time, of not spending, going back to what we said, we were talking about earlier about if you say something, is celebrating in life. There's a song del Gran Combo de Puerto Rico, lo que me vayan a dar, que me lo den en vida. With whatever I'm meant to receive in life, let me have it now while I'm still alive and can enjoy it. And I try to, as much as I can, remember that and hit the brakes and, pause and breathe and understand and enjoy now this moment. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life where I'm always 10 steps ahead of myself. I'm always a couple weeks or months or years ahead of myself, and I'm not enjoying the now. So my fear of missing out, and again, this has only come with life experience and age. I don't want to keep fucking that up. I try as much as I can to, silence that phone and not get sucked into the algorithm, which I do, unfortunately. And it's funny because my partner actually gets frustrated and he'll take my phone and actually puts a limit. And I haven't taken it off. Just reminds me. I normally get to that limit. It's like an hour, a minute, and I normally into it like in the first hour and a half of my day. Yeah. And I get the alert, but it reminds me. Yeah. I still leave it on. And it's funny because if I have, we have a lot of eyes and bodies that are involved in the production and assistants in my show and stuff, and they'll see it and they'll laugh. Why do you have that on? Why do you have that on there? So, my partner put that on there, but take it off. It's like, now you have to go through. I said, no, because it reminds me, and it's true. That, we need these reminders to keep us grounded, to keep us real, to keep us connected, to enjoy the here, the now, the present that I think a lot of us fall into because there's so much shit that's competing for our attention. Yeah. Right. So what do you pay attention to?
Yeah, that's so interesting, the concept of time here, right? Because, I recently had a friend who, just like a few days ago, who was getting ready to go to dinner, and so was her husband. And by the time she got home from the salon, her husband had a heart attack and passed away. And you start thinking about, like, what could have I said? What could have I done? And I think it goes back to the conversation we were having about control. We seem to want to have control in order to have safety. And the loss of life around you allows you to understand you actually don't control anything.
Or we think that we mistake that control is safety.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's a narrative you tell yourself about the well-being of yourself through controlling, and especially as men, as successful men, when you see your dream come true, the one of the biggest fears is also losing it, right? Mm-hmm. So you tend to overjudge yourself or be hard on yourself or think I have to work all day long because if I don't, then I'm going to lose this success. I'm going to lose the things I worked so hard for. I'm going to lose. And I think one of the hardest part of that is digesting the fact that you don't have control, and that there is a high level chance that if you relinquish control, you could probably have a better life experience. My spiritual leader was having this conversation with me where he said, it's not your job to figure it out. That entails you having control, and life is so uncertain that you actually have no control. And it played into this belief I've had for a long time about not believing in balance. Because balance is the idea that you can hold two things in perfect, position in order for it to be driven at the same time.
So you don't believe in balance?
No, because life can throw you anything. If I take this straw and I put it in my hand and I balance it perfectly, it just takes and it'll go, right? I believe in rhythm. I believe in finding your rhythm, right? Your heartbeat works in rhythm. We talk in rhythm. We walk in rhythm. The world is flow of energy. And in finding your rhythm, that's what really, instead of I'm trying to find a balance between work and personal life. No, you try to find a rhythm that works for you. And that rhythm could change. Sometimes you're EDM, sometimes you're salsa, sometimes you're classical music, you know? But the concept of saying that to me, for me was like eye-opening, because it made me understand that whenever I'm driving, I'm only going as far as my knowledge knows, right? And whenever I'm not driving, I can let the universe take me wherever the universe is. And the universe allows me to meet Enrique Santos. The universe allows me to meet Will Smith. The universe allows me to do the things that I've done, not by I deserve it, but by design of the universe plans. God's plans are just bigger than yours. And that's easily said, harder to believe.
With that said,
right?
Where is that balance though of paying attention to the universe, letting the universe dictate what's going to happen, and then your dreams and your creativity and what you want to accomplish? Because
in my personal
Lex
life,
was standing in the corner, 10, 15 years ago, just standing there waiting for the wind to blow, you would have not have created the empire that you've created.
What I've learned in my personal life is if you are operating from fear, if you're operating from a place of distress, meaning I need to control because this is going to fall apart. And if I fall apart and the deal doesn't close and I got to do it, so I got to stay up all night. That's fear.
Got it.
So to me, what I've learned is when fear kicks in, stay still. Because you can work overtime and still fail.
But sit still for how long?
Until you can identify what is not led by fear.
So you don't make a stupid mistake or make a decision based on fear.
It doesn't even have to be a stupid mistake. It's so you don't suffer on your way to reaching your dreams. Because we suffer because we think, and we've been programmed to think that if we don't work really hard or we don't work 48 hours a day to try to finish it, then the success is not going to happen.
Right.
But I know a bunch of people, a bunch of artists, a bunch of managers that work as hard as I do don't have what I have, which tells me that what I have is a gift.
Or a combination of things. You're just better at what you do than they are.
But it's a gift.
You're more determined. You have more drive.
But it's a gift.
Your ideas are better.
But it's a gift.
At the end of the day, it's always a gift.
Right? But
you realize it. And that's why you're being blessed by more gifts. Some people don't realize it, or some people think that they're just entitled automatically, to they just deserve and that they have to have these things because they just have to.
I'll give you a good example. When I took over the company and we started to grow it, and I say I went from being an entrepreneur to a CEO. My idea of being a CEO was being an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, you're accustomed to painting the wall, doing this, hitting the thing, like doing everything because you're trying to hustle up, right? Now it's like, okay, great. We've raised money. We have the company's doing well. We're all good. Now I'm a CEO. And I started speaking to friends of mine who, are CEOs of multi-billion-dollar companies. And they'd be like, so what are you doing this year? Like, what are your travel plans? And I'll be like, man, I don't even know what tomorrow's going to bring. Like, because I might need to cancel my trip. And one of my friends said, oh, you're not rich enough. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I spend January to March in Aspen skiing. In the summer. And I said, but when do you get any work done? He said, Lex, the key of being a CEO is understanding that it's just the vision. The work itself, the idea that you have to over hustle stops you from having the brain space to think of the vision and have clarity. So the work is hiring the right people, putting the right people to, and then carrying the vision. And then,
do you think that CEO that's planning all those trips and not in the trenches, not rolling up their sleeves, not helping paint those walls, is at a disadvantage? Is limiting themselves?
To the opposite. They've understood that their value is the vision, is the creativity, is the guidance, right? And their value of the person below them might be operational, and the value of the person below them might be logistics, and the value of what they've understood is that it's not their job to figure everything out.
Right.
It's their job to create the North Star and bring someone that could figure out operation, who could figure out logistics, who could figure out creativity, who could figure out that. And that goes back to my original point. Mm-hmm. If you take that into your own life and you say, okay, well, if my job is to be still enough to listen and know and mature enough to identify when I'm operating in fear, and it's the universe and God's job to figure it out. But once they figure it out, once they put the North Star, they're the CEO. Once they say, here's where you should go, then I got to have the courage to go move cities or leave jobs to change to another job. Then that's the part where I think the difference between people is that some people are courageous. Tom Brady on the field beats you in fourth quarter because the emotional, that kicks in and creates the fear and creates the mistakes and creates the anxiety.
Going back to feeling uncomfortable and all those emotions that you just mentioned kick you into hyperspeed.
Yeah.
And gets that adrenaline going that we talked about earlier. And you end up performing better than what you're probably thinking you are not in control.
Yeah.
Probably, and playing horribly, and you're actually probably playing the best.
Yeah. Which tells you that your mind will psych you out.
And that plays into the fight or flight theory that is also, ingrained in law enforcement.
Yeah.
Which is, again, my background.
Yeah.
So it's all of that background and training and that also is applied to my daily work.
But in the process of doing all this work on yourself and obviously maturing as a man, have you been able to identify kind of the trauma triggers that have come up and we'll talk about Will because we had the pleasure of working together in that amazing interview about Beautiful Scars. But in Tantrum, he talks about, my inner child is throwing a tantrum. Have you been able to identify that in yourself? Like when your filter of the trauma that you might have experienced as a kid or as a young adult kicks in and you realize, oh, this is my inner child playing a tantrum.
For sure. I'm very conscious of others' feelings and how people will forget words, but people will never forget how you made them feel. It's a constant thing that I'm always working on. But I like seeing people happy. I like making people happy. And so Enrique also, in trying to make other people happy, has not been happy a lot of times of my life. So I've identified also moments where, no, it's okay that if, I want to take this trip and it's going to cost me so much, it's okay because it's my work, it's my money, I worked for it, and I'm not going to feel guilty about it. Where in the past I would have been, or if I'm buying a car, or if I'm buying a watch or whatever it may be, in the past I would guilt trip myself. Not that I didn't deserve it, but I'm like, wow, but this money could be going to help another person, another family member. But what's wrong in, I work so hard and I get up every morning. There's nothing wrong in investing in myself, in my own, again, mental health. It's an investment. I'm not into material things. I have what I need. I consider myself minimalistic when it comes to that. A lot of people have 5, 6, 7 cars. They like collecting cars. That's cool. I'm just, the way my brain works, if I have more than one car, I worry about okay, where's the car charger and what car is it in and where do I leave? If I have my hat, I'm just very that way. So everything in my life is that way. My closet, I have, my shirts organized. And if I have something that I don't use, I don't like having it even in my house. I'll donate it. I'll find a way. I'll find someone to make use of it. And, but in that, I'm in a constant, not battle, but I think it is a battle now that I think of it. I'm in a constant battle to make my life easier and eliminate the drama and the stress. Again, because I live a very noisy life because of the work I do. So when I get home, I want peace. See, I want a little bit of that balance.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying and it's more about frequency, and it makes sense. I want to be on the right frequency. I want to try to find, although balance is never, you're going to find the perfect balance, but I try to balance my day with work, play, my responsibilities, and me being silly. I consider myself a silly guy. I like laughing at myself. I like laughing with my friends and having a good time and not taking myself so serious, because sometimes the line of work that I do is very serious.
Part of the journey that I've learned, my spiritual leader asked me once, he said, Lex, you have a given heart. You're really passionate about helping people. You are always thinking about how to facilitate someone else's life, and you give from a pure heart. So the question is, why are you giving? And I was like, for all the same reasons you just talked about. I said, no. Do you identify when you're giving? If you're giving because you feel the need to fix the fear, to fix acceptance, to feel, and I was like, well, how do I know this? And I said, well, you ever given to someone and then when you needed them, they don't, they're too busy or they call you back, or maybe you gave them a Rolex and they gave you a Casio, and you start feeling like, man, why is that person acting like that with me? He's like, you were giving when you were feeling good, but when you're contracted and you don't feel good, all of a sudden it's very easy to be like, oh, bro, I'm not calling that person back. He didn't call me back. I helped him do this and he didn't even come. Like, it's like, wait. Were you given that because you wanted something in return, or you given? And reanalyzing that in my life as I've approached giving of my time, giving of my, money, giving of whatever it is, it's been really interesting because I have found areas of my life where I was like, okay, this is about me feeling good in this moment. Because I want that person to think like, wow, Lex is such a great guy. He gifted me. And it wasn't necessarily like what it is. Because the second thing he said to me was like, stop trying to save people. People don't need saving. You're preventing life from showing them the lessons when you kick in, and you kick in trying to save them your way. So in my relationship, for example, it'd be like something goes wrong and I'd have to like, and I don't sometimes consider the emotion my partner might be feeling, because I'm just trying to solve the problem, because I'm a natural problem solver, and solving the problem is what she needs. It's
your instinct.
And all she really needed was just a hug and say, hey, it's okay. Like, she didn't need me to go into action and work out.
Remind her that the next time she wants to watch.
That's what I was but part of the conversation as well, as we're coming to a close, do you feel that you're trying to still discover who Enrique is? Especially, I say in our business, we tend to build these costumes, right? And you spoke a little bit about that with Will, and we build this protection mechanism around us, whether that's our team or our PR team or even ourselves, right? Like, we create Lex instead of Alejandro, because Lex is this image of perfection. But Enrique is the beautiful smiled, funny guy at radio. And they tend to be protection mechanisms for who we truly are, right? Which we explore that, and we're exploring that in our conversation as we're going through this therapy session, this mutual therapy session.
This free first therapy session.
This 0.99 not free therapy session.
I'm afraid of I'm afraid of the bill I'm going to get.
But do you feel that you're still in that journey of really letting that inside you, that inside Enrique out, or you feel like it's a true reflection of everything that you are?
No, for the most part, I consider myself a very authentic person. What you see is what you get. Are there layers sometimes where I put up certain barriers and I want to protect myself? Yes, absolutely. Taking into consideration, that I do a syndicated morning show every day. I'm in a very vulnerable situation, and I speak very freely about everything and anything. There's nothing that's really taboo on my radio program with my audience, which has been key to my success, I would say. My audience appreciates that the way I look at it. I'm at the same level with them. I'm not below them. I'm not above them, and people appreciate that. That's been, again, part of a big part of my success. So, and I keep true to that. I try to lead by example. I don't preach to my audience, but it's amazing, Lex, and it's so much pressure every day because people will literally, first of all, for us folks in radio, I like to say that we are the original influencers. Okay, before social media, we are the people that still today. It's amazing how people will like, what's that shirt that you're wearing? Hey, my son saw the shoes you were wearing. What brand is that? Where can I buy those? Could you send me the link to this, that, and the other? So So with that, you know, and going back to what you had asked me about when did I realize I was famous, and fame to me is not really, I think it's overvalued. And I run into a lot of people, especially young people. Oh, I want to be famous. I want to, you know, I want to be rich. You know, oh, wow, you have X amount of followers. I want that, you know, and I'm like, do you really analyze, you know, don't do that for the likes. Don't do something for, and I get asked that a lot, you know, how can I do what you are doing? And I'm always just tell people, you know, hey, do things do things because that's what you're really passionate about. So I'm passionate about what I do. I'm blessed. And I realize that blessing every single day to have a microphone that you're able to positively influence people, especially doing morning radio. You basically set the tone of what people's day is going to be, you know? So with that is, you know, we filter a lot of, not that it's not real, because my show I consider is very, very real, but I try to filter, you know, take into consideration that there's a lot of co-listening. A lot of the people that listen to me are families that are in commute, that are taking their kids to school, that there's grandparents and parents and moms and dads and primarily kids listening, right, of all different ages. I take that with a great sense of responsibility, you know, to use the right words, to be positive, to not be negative in such a negative world that we live in right now, when everything it looks to seems as if it's looking to divide us. Just really, you know, try to bring people together. And I get lost sometimes in that, in that process. That's why those quiet times for me are so important, so that I check myself, so that I don't believe my own bullshit, all without having to take ayahuasca. Haven't done it. Maybe one day you'll convince me.
I had this question about being a radio host, right? Because I find it so interesting to speak to a mic and not have an audience. And it's like, you're not getting a response right away. So you don't know if that hit, if the joke hit, if it didn't hit.
You're always going to have that factor, right? Because we have no idea how many people you're impacting are listening to you right now, are watching, specifically with audio.
Yeah.
It's so unique. It's so powerful because audio is the one source of media that you don't have to have someone's full undivided attention. They can be multitasking. They can be listening to you and they can be doing exercise. And they can be listening to you and they can be eating. They can be showering and still listening to you. So it's the only source of media that it doesn't require 100% attention, yet it still has your attention. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you don't know the impact of how many people you're actually reaching. And the same is true now for social media with cameras, or how many people are watching, or on demand too.
Yeah.
You know, audio and video is on demand. So we could be having this conversation here today, and they could be we could be impacting somebody, or somebody could be seeing it for the very first time 6 months from now or a year from now.
What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of the person that the man that I have become, coming from an immigrant family. My parents and grandparents that were born in a you know, dictatorship in communist Cuba, to be able to come to this country. It's funny you asked me. I had a real come to life moment the very first time I was invited to the White House. It was during Hispanic Heritage Month. It was for a president administration that I had not voted for. However, that administration decided to invite me to the White House. I'm in the White House for the very first time. The bartender serving me a vodka soda was born in communist Cuba, just like my parents and my grandparents. And I started thinking, wow. And my brother was actually serving his second term in the United States Army. Very proud of him. And it was a very special moment for me, because I realized, wow, my parents and grandparents were born in a country that they were never able to speak their mind or exercise a vote, a democratic vote. Yet here I am in the White House for the very first time, celebrating my heritage, my Hispanic heritage, celebrating my grandparents and grandparents. The bartender was born also in communist Cuba, and he's serving, he had told me he had served like 6 or 7 other presidents in his position with a lot of pride. My brother's serving in the United States Army. I says, where else in the world could you, you know, not vote for a president, yet his administration invite you to the White House? That was a very proud moment for me. I've had a lot of proud moments like that throughout my career, and blessed to have simple things. You know, I've had a lot of big accomplishments, and I'm proud of all of those. But I think I'm most proud of the simple things. When people come up to me and say, "Thank you," I was going through a dark time in my life. Thought about checking out, doing harm to myself, doing something stupid, and I heard your radio program, or I came across some of your content, and you changed my day. You made me happy. So those are the things that I'm proud of when I'm able to connect. When I get people that saying, "Hey," because I identify with that too, but with the language thing and the cultural thing. My parents are were born in Cuba, but I was born here in the United States, and I speak full Spanish only because my parents told me, "Aquí en casa vas a hablar español," and I'm so thankful to that. But I get so many people now, and parents tell me, "Hey, thank you." I'm like, "Thanks for what?" Because thanks to you and your prank calls and your interviews and your content that you do with the English, on the English side, I'm able to show my kids that, you can be Latino and live simultaneously in two worlds and still have success. And you're an example of that. I'm like, wow, that makes me proud. Is that my kids are now learning. They were born here in the United States, just like you, but they're learning now they're learning to speak Spanish. They want to, so you've made, basically, they're saying you made Spanish cool,
awesome.
enough for my kids that were born here in the United States to want to speak the language. And then with that, I identify with that because I embraced also my cultural identity, early on as an adolescent. But I remember as a young kid, I rejected a lot of that. I rejected a lot of Spanish language and Spanish music and not so much culture because I was still in the culture, but all my primos and my friends at school, everyone spoke English, So I'm proud of the little things.
I love that. Love that. It's the little things that really count, I think, So on the show, we always do something, and, you versus you is the idea that, the biggest battle we have is our internal one. And that the words, the power words have go beyond, to your point, not only what we could say to others, right? And I always say, I could tell you I love you and you could feel it. I can, curse at you and you could feel that. And I realized that we are with ourselves more than we are with anybody else. And we're speaking to ourselves more than we are to anybody else. And so I believe in the power of the words we are saying to ourselves. And we started this since the top, and it's, what is one sentence that you can say to yourself right now that will change the way you perceive this week?
Wow. I love you. Take care of yourself. Pay attention to where you're at and the positive impact that you have on others and what your responsibility is in this moment in life. We're responsible for our actions, right? We get tied up in so much bullshit. We got to be better. Well, Enrique's got to be better for himself. It's touching to me, this one particular question that you're asking me and how you're closing, because I recently wrote a letter to myself. And if you haven't done it, I recommend it. I was just going through some old pictures of Enrique as a kid. And I started, wow, what was I thinking in that moment, in that, in life, in that particular moment, that day, and trying to reminiscing, taking me back there, looking back to, and even to your question when you asked, what am I, most proud of in my life? And I look back and I'm like, wow, I'm proud that I am where I am. I'm proud that I made it to where I am. But I guess so much more to go. I think one of the best therapeutic things, and if I can, I recommend everyone doing it, sitting down, taking a day to yourself, writing yourself a letter. Write a letter to yourself. It was transformative. It was very, very powerful. And it took me back to that moment with your question. I think we need to listen to ourselves more,
Yeah.
And be better to ourselves.
Yeah. I would say mine is, you're okay. No matter what seems like it's not, you're okay and everything's okay. And sometimes, again, it's the most powerful thing you can say, and I'll steal this one from Will, is is you can make it. You know, it's like you're okay, right? That concept of like everything that is happening is just irrelevant to the fact of how you're internal. And even for myself in the work and everything.
But do you find yourself like saying to yourself that you're not okay?
I find
frequently?
myself not saying that I'm not okay. I find myself facing the circumstances sometimes of my life and feeling the contraction of fear, right? Or feeling the contraction of stress. And while I've gotten, again, a lot better at catching it and at least being aware, it doesn't stop from, it's not a day and night change. No one's ever arrived, right? So I find myself being sometimes in places where the circumstances of the day will send my body into shock. And even things like, before coming here this morning, last night, I had the weirdest dream. Like, but it was a nightmare. Like I woke up.
I have that effect.
100%. I knew it was you. I woke up and I was like, huh? Is it Jesus? No, it's Enrique. But like I had one of those dreams that like I rarely have nightmares, but it triggered an emotional reaction in my morning where even while I was at the gym, like I was trying to kick off the thought of the possibility of the nightmare that I was having even happening. Mm-hmm. And I noticed my body going into shock, right? In the middle of a workout, I'm like, I caught myself doing that. And so I felt the need to tell myself, hey, you're okay, But it felt so real, and it came from circumstances that were happening in real life. So it was like, when you overthink something at night, your brain takes you for the ride, like when you do ayahuasca. But so I again, same thing. It's like the power of really catching yourself, and being able to say the words, because it's like that in therapy. They use this exercise and where they tell you close your eyes. Mm-hmm. Imagine you're driving down the PCH in California, and you hear the waves, and you hear the wind blowing, and you hear the engine of your car, and then you see this amazing orange trees, and you pull up down the side of the road, and you pick one out, and you cut it, and it just all the water, and you bite into it. Your brain believes that it's happening, so it creates saliva.
Salivating and everything. Yeah.
And that idea of that exercise from a mental state shows you how powerful your words are. Because you can create that same change in your life through what we say to ourselves. So it's why I ask this question always at the end, because I really believe that the goal of sharing this fellowship with each other is that you can leave out of here more blessed and more enlightened and more joyful than when you walked in. So with that, thank you, brother. I appreciate you coming and being on this journey with me. I'm excited, and I'm excited to share this story, share this time together. And
thank you.
And I'm excited to catch up later and talk about your journey as we both evolve, right? But I'm so proud of everything you've done. I'm so proud of who you are and who you've been to me since day one, since I started this company, since before I knew anything about Latin music. You've always shown up. You've shown up to an event in the middle of COVID for me. Like that goes ways, that goes beyond. And so I really appreciate who you are in my life. I appreciate your friendship. And
same here, man.
And thank you for being a part of this journey, you versus you.
One of the things that I really enjoy and that really make me proud is to see friends succeed, to have a dream, and to see them grow even beyond what their original plan was. And this happens all the time when I meet people in the industry, when I meet new artists, when they come in, they have to see them grow, and then all of a sudden touring the world and charting and becoming some of the most popular artists on the planet. That all those things make me very proud that I had at least a little bit to do with their journey, and I'm proud of your journey. And this has been fantastic. I'm just scared of the bill I'm going to get for this session.
Cha-ching, cha-ching.
This is going to be one expensive therapy session. And I am a lot happier now leaving than when I got here. I appreciate you.
Love that.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you guys for tuning in to You Versus You. Please subscribe, like, and share as we build this community and we help each other to live the life of our dreams.